We're looking at a pivotal moment for the Catholic Church, aren't we? With Pope Francis's time, well, seemingly drawing nearer to a close,
Hmm.
we've gathered a pretty compelling set of articles here, mostly from Spanish news outlets, actually. They offer some deep dives into what the next conclave might bring.
Right.
And the core question we're tackling today, it's pretty straightforward. Who's next? And, what kind of shifts might that election signal for the church? So your goal in this deep dive is really to get a handle on the key dynamics, the forces at play in this whole historic process.
Yeah, and what jumps out immediately, I think, is just the sheer range of perspectives involved.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 133 cardinal electors from 71 different countries.
71, wow.
Yeah, and as Church historian Juan Rielaboa really highlights this kind of unprecedented global mix, it throws in a huge element of unpredictability.
Mhm.
Historically, European cardinals had a lot of sway, but this time, well, the diverse backgrounds, the different experiences, it could all lead somewhere much less predictable. That's crucial to grasp right off the bat.
Absolutely. Yeah, forget those old ideas of backroom deals between the usual faces. These sources, they detail the mechanics, the locked doors of the Sistine Chapel, the whole conclave with key meaning. But it's the people involved that really grabs you, isn't it?
It is.
Like Mateo Gonzalez points out, we're talking cardinals from, well, pretty small dioceses sometimes, places like Mongolia, Timor Oriental.
Right, exactly.
People who might not have much history with the Vatican's, established power circles. This diversity alone makes guessing the next pope feel like, well, a real challenge.
And that brings up a really vital point about Pope Francis himself, actually. Because while, yes, he appointed a big majority, was it 79% of these electors?
Yeah, nearly 80%.
Mateo Gonzalez, though, he rightly warns against just assuming they're all, a solid block supporting his reformist ideas.
Right.
Appointments happen for all sorts of reasons, right?
Right.
Maybe recognizing the church's energy in far-off places. And a cardinal's views can definitely evolve after they get the red hat. So the impact of Francis's choices, it's not a given.
So the central tension we're exploring then is it going to be continuity with Francis's reform path or a pivot? Maybe something more conservative? We hear about this pendulum idea.
The pendulum theory.
Yeah, this historical pattern, though maybe not always rigid, where reformist popes are often followed by more conservative ones.
But then if you connect that to the bigger picture, Juan Maria Laboa offers a really interesting counterargument.
Oh, yeah.
His analysis suggests that the main feeling within the church today actually lines up pretty well with the direction Francis has taken it. And he points to things like the synods of bishops.
Okay, the discussions there.
Yeah, the outcomes there, as evidence of this sort of wider support, it suggests maybe a deeper agreement than just a simple back-and-forth swing.
That's a key insight. Yeah, the idea that the collective voice, through these synods, hints at wanting continuity. And the Jesuit theologian, Jose Maria Olizola, he takes it even further. He suggests that some big shifts under Francis, especially synodality, which, just to clarify, is that move towards more shared decisions involving lay people, women too.
Right. Crucial point.
Those things are probably quite hard to totally undo, even if a new pope might, slow down the pace a bit.
And what I find really insightful in Oliozola's view is his focus on the Second Vatican Council. Vatican II.
Okay, going back further.
Yeah, as the kind of overarching framework. He argues we shouldn't just focus on whether the next pope continues or undoes Francis's specific things, but rather on the ongoing mission of aggiornamento.
Aggiornamento, updating, right.
Exactly. Think of it as the church constantly trying to engage with and update itself for the modern world. A process Vatican II really kicked off, over 60 years ago now? And it's still shaping the path. Francis's reforms, they're arguably part of that longer project.
Right, so less about a simple thumbs up or thumbs down on Francis, and more about Vatican II's lasting call for relevance. Okay, but Laboa also brings up a potential constraint, doesn't he? He suggests a more conservative pope could still hinder or, sideline changes Francis hinted at, but maybe didn't fully lock down.
Yeah, get fine.
Like the whole discussion around ordaining married priests, for instance. That's a prime example he gives.
Which naturally gets us thinking about the potential candidates themselves and, well, how tricky it is to pin down their leanings.
Yeah, the names.
Our sources talk about an aperturist wing, and by that we mean sort of a group generally favoring a more open, inclusive church, especially on social issues. Outreach to the margins. Names you often hear are Cardinal Matteo Zuppi from Italy, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines, Archbishop Aveline from Marseille, And it's also noted, interestingly, that having another Jesuit and another pope from Latin America right after Francis, well, that's seen as pretty unlikely.
Right. Then there's Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Secretary of State, often called a consensus candidate.
Yeah, Parolin. He's often seen as more centrist, maybe. Yeah. A skilled diplomat, good at dialogue across different views, which makes him harder to just stick on a simple left-right scale.
It's a reminder that those labels can be a bit simplistic, really.
They really can be. And then, of course, you have the ultra-conservative sector. Figures like Cardinal Robert Serra, Gerhard Ludwig Müller, Raymond Burke.
Right.
These are cardinals who've often voiced, strong criticisms about the church's direction, especially on issues like homosexuality, the role of women, and some have known links to traditionalist movements, even certain political groups. It really shows the spectrum you're dealing with in the College of Cardinals.
It absolutely does. It's such a wide range of thinking all coming together for this one decision. And like our sources remind us, that old Vatican saying,
yes.
Whoever enters as pope leaves as cardinal.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of just how unpredictable this whole thing can be.
Definitely. So shifting gears a bit, looking outwards, we also have to think about the external pressures, the whole global context this election is happening in.
Crucial point. Pope Francis definitely faced some notable challenges from the rise of certain right-wing political leaders, didn't he? People like Trump, Milei, mostly because of his strong social stances.
Yeah, immigration, economic inequality.
Exactly. Those issues really put him at odds with some political figures.
So how does the next pope navigate that, this increasingly polarized world? Will they try a similar approach, direct engagement, consistent dialogue, even with those who fundamentally disagree? That seemed to be Francis's style, didn't it?
It did, often. Though Isidro Catella offers a valuable perspective here. He emphasizes that the church's main job, fundamentally, is proclaiming the gospel. It's not primarily about, strategic geopolitical maneuvering.
Okay, keeping the mission central.
Right. But, of course, the church doesn't operate in a bubble. And the deep experience of someone like, say, Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem.
With his background in conflict zones.
Exactly. That firsthand understanding of navigating really complex, tense situations. Well, that's certainly something some cardinals might see as particularly relevant right now.
And it's also pretty revealing, isn't it, to read about the external lobbying efforts. Traditionalist groups apparently putting real resources into shaping how potential candidates are seen.
Yeah, even down to things like Wikipedia edits, apparently.
Right. And the idea that external pressure on individual cardinals trying to get them to back certain candidates might actually, in some cases, be stronger than the internal dynamics within the conclave itself. That's quite something to consider.
It really brings us back to the problem with those simple labels, conservative versus progressive. As Isidro Catella points out quite well, each pope just brings their own accents, their own priorities, but within a basic continuity of church teaching.
Right.
I mean, look at Francis, seen widely as a reformer, but he's held a very firm conservative line on core issues like abortion.
That's a good point. It shows the nuance.
Exactly. Changing the church is usually more evolution, more reform, rather than, sudden breaks or rupture.
So, okay, let's try and bring this all together for this deep dive. This upcoming conclave, it really stands out because of this incredible diversity among the electors.
Unprecedented.
Which makes confidently predicting the outcome just incredibly difficult. The core question seems to be about how much the church continues down Francis's reform path, or if we see a shift, maybe more conservative.
Right. That's the tension.
And this huge decision is going to be shaped by, well, a complex mix of internal church dynamics and these significant external pressures from the wider world, the global political scene.
Which really leaves us with a key question for you, the listener, to think about. Given this wide array of backgrounds and experiences among the cardinals and these huge global challenges the church is facing, how can the next pope possibly bridge all those different perspectives inside the church while also having a relevant, impactful voice in the world? Ultimately, what single quality, what characteristic do you think will be the most crucial, most indispensable for the next leader of the Catholic Church? Something to chew on.